Scrappy Peeps, Suzanna here today for SpiegelMom Scraps, and I am here to share this layout with you. This is a sketch-inspired layout using a Scrapbook Generations sketch as well as the One Canoe 2 Twilight collection and some sequins from SpiegelMom Scraps. So I have these pictures of my son. He recently left for a swim meet in Florida, and it was kind of a big deal, and I wanted to document that. So I saw the sketch and I was inspired to play along and wanted to use this sketch and this collection for these photos. So the nice thing about Scrapbook Generation sketches is that the measurements are all there for you. So I've just cut the 8.5 by 8.5 square, and I am now in the process of figuring out the banners. There's different size, length, and width banners that are moving across the page. And this particular collection, or these bits and pieces of this collection, are actually from the Scrap Room double shot kit, and so I have a limited number of papers, which is awesome because there aren't too many choices. And so with these 3 pieces of pattern paper and 2 colors of cardstock, I need to make this work. And so I have the perfect number of papers to use for this between those combinations there. And so I'm just literally following the sketch and the measurements that are on there, and I am cutting out the different height and width banners that are going to move down the left-hand side of the page. And I'm using the front and back of a lot of these papers. Some of these papers, rather than cutting through the whole piece of paper, because I really only do have a limited amount of this, I am, you'll see the last banner at the end there, I am going to head and tail it. So I'm just going to cut short pieces, and because these banners are dissected by the photo, you don't really need to do the whole length that's behind there, and you would just wing it as far as how far down it actually goes. And it really doesn't matter. It doesn't need to be exactly that precise, just to give you the different heights and lengths. So the other thing that I did off camera was I fussy cut a few of the flowers that are on one of the pattern papers. You can see that flower in the top right hand corner there. I chose a partial flower, and then I chose a whole flower that will go down below the picture. So in the sketch calls for 2 really big stars. And instead of the stars, I am going to use those flowers. Now, for this square of pattern paper, it's just a light pattern paper with gray polka dots. I had toyed with the idea of inking the edges, which would have looked fine. I had also toyed with the idea of sewing the edges of this, maybe just using some red thread or kind of maroon. That's more of that maroony color, or even a pink thread. And I could have done that, and that would have looked absolutely fine. But my sheer laziness decided that I was not going to go upstairs to the sewing machine, and I was just going to let it be as it was. Something else that you could do if you wanted to do something a little bit different too was you could have just doodled around the edges or done a hand stitch around the edges, and that would have looked fine. So these are banners in the sketch, and I did want them to continue to look like banners, and part of why I wanted them to continue to look like banners and was inspired by this sketch is because this is a celebratory event per se. My son had made a national swimming championship swim meet, and he was heading out to that, and so that was the celebration, really was the accomplishment, and hence the title is called Sweet Accomplishment. So I'm going to notch the banners. To do that, what I did was I just cut down the center of each banner and then angled up to that center from the right and the left side, and that creates an equal tail on the banners there. You can see that's exactly what I did there. And then I'm just going to adhere down the top of the banner, or if it were the piece that I am paper piecing, I'll adhere the tops of the top and the bottom piece of that banner. So I'm going to notch them and stick them. And in the choosing of the colored paper patterns, really I wanted to just sort of alternate the pink/red with the blue, and that's what I did there. And the flower, I just tried to get enough of the floral that you could see that it was a flower, but not really be distracted by the fact that it was a flower. And you'll see how that makes sense once I put the picture over the top of it, because that's one thing you do have to consider, is that these banners are going to be bisected by the pictures there. This is a boy page, really. Yes, there are girls in the picture, but this is about my son. And so it was kind of cool to me that I was able to use these reds and blues that are in the collection and the flowers and get those on a boy page. So in the sketch, the original straight strip that I have is the blue strip there, goes over what in my case is the floral strip. And I needed that red because it's very bold to be bisected and broken up a little bit. And so you'll see that I move that blue strip to cover up some of that red and shift it over and deviate from the sketch just a teeny bit that way. My cardstock was just a little bit on the long side. When I trimmed off the selvage, I didn't get enough to true it to 12 by 12, so I trued it down to 12 by 12 based on the length of that selvage strip on the right hand side there. So there's the second flower that I was talking about. I'm just going to tuck that in, and that takes place of this star in the sketch. And then in the sketch there are a whole bunch of fun elements that are falling or moving from the top down to the bottom across all of those banners there. And I am going to use the ephemera, or the goodies that came in my kit. So the nice thing about the scrap room kits is that you just get a few samples of everything. And so I did get some wood buttons, and I'm going to put 3 of those, and that creates the trio of elements that I like. And then I am going to put a couple of the stickers that come in the sticker pack. There is a paper clip, you can see that there, and I wanted to try and incorporate that into the layout but couldn't find a way to make that work. So instead I'm going to go with some stickers, as I mentioned earlier, from the sticker pack. And actually really what I end up going with is the moth and just a couple of the crosses or X's, whatever you want to call those things. They look more like crosses to me. And then I am going to finish off this layout. Oh, and you can see I put a few hearts in. Because of the busyness of the pattern papers, it was hard to find elements that were going to stand out and be bold enough against those busy pattern papers there. And then I'm going to finish off the whole thing with sequins, because what layout would be complete without sequins? I really wanted to use that label there, and I do end up using it to cover some of the white space in the photo, and that is a deviation from the sketch, as well as that word sticker there that says, "Remember this always." I just like the way that the movement of those 2 stickers created some horizontal movement in the layout as well. So this word phrase says sweet and simple, but I wanted it to incorporate sweet into my title, so I just cut out sweet, and because I needed to finish it off, I had to fussy cut along the edges, and then that left me the ability to put in accomplishment, because it really is a sweet accomplishment. Now I used 3 different sequence mixes here, bits and pieces of them, in order to match the colors that go with One Canoe 2. So I pulled the peachy pinks from Marbeld Joy, and then I'm going to pull that dark blue from Southern Bluebells, and then I have the brown that goes with the wood bricks, as well as some of the colors in the dresses that the girls are wearing, and that is a wood veneer sequence. That's the white oak mini collection there. So this is just me finishing the title, and I am, as usual, going to do the Suzanna title shuffle, and there I am spelling out accomplishment. It's a long word, and I didn't realize how long accomplishment is, and I felt quite accomplished putting down accomplishment, spelling it right, and getting it to fit, because it took me quite some time. So this is my SpiegelMom Scraps layout using a scrapbook generation sketch and One Canoe 2 from the scrap room. Enjoy the close-ups. Thanks for stopping in today, and I hope you're doing well. Take care.